Start Network is.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
What's up, folks? Today is Wednesday, May 17, 2023. Coming up, a Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. All of a sudden, Fox News is going crazy over Biden speaks about white supremacy. I'm going to explain to you why all of a sudden this is a huge problem for them. We'll talk with folks with Media Map, with Southern Poverty Law Center, expert in the area of white supremacy. Why Biden's focus is scaring white conservatives to death. Also on the show, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett had a whole lot to say to the GOP in yesterday's hearing where they attacked Washington, D.C. for a variety of issues. Plus, it's Tech Talk. We'll have our guest on the show as well. Lots to break down. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. The Black Star Network. It's time to bring the funk. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, roll.
the last 2 days, folks, I've been breaking down methodically Fox News and white conservatives being angry, just angry at President Joe Biden because he chose to speak about white supremacy in his commencement speech to Howard University on Saturday. They are angry that he was talking to black people. Now, Harris Faulkner, Rachel Campos Duffy, Will Cain, Peter Hegseth, all of them, they all been lying, claiming that, Biden hasn't discussed this in other places. He has. But you got to ask yourself the question, why is this hit dog hollering? Why are they so upset? Well, yesterday, Jesse Waters, angry and upset, and he actually had the audacity to try to have some advice for black people with his race-baiting self. Watch this fool.
Biden didn't talk like this in the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s. In fact, it was just the opposite. Why all of a sudden is white supremacy the biggest threat when race relations have improved?
Yeah, he used to talk at Klan members' funerals, from what I remember. No, they're going to keep trying to divide us. This is a very good school. If you graduate from Howard University, you are going places. You are going to be working for white people, and white people are going to be working for you. So to have the president come there and feed them this stuff like they're victims of white supremacy is such a disappointment. And you know what the biggest domestic threat is to young black men in this country? Other young black men with guns. And that's the truth. And if you just talk raw numbers, you got health issues to worry about. Coronavirus killed 1 million people. You got absent fathers, education issues. Maybe there's a mass shooter who's a white supremacist a couple times a year. But in terms of the biggest threat to these very, very intelligent black people that have the world at their fingertips, this is not something I would be drilling into their heads. And this is something that proves that white supremacy is not what people think it is. They rank all of the ethnicities on income in this country. Indian Americans make $100,000 a year on average. Filipino Americans, Japanese Americans, Chinese Americans all make more money on average than white Americans. Hispanic Americans make more money on average than African Americans. And it's all based on education. It's not white supremacy that's the determining factor, it's education.
Oh, don't you just love Jesse caring so much about black people that he now is telling black people what our concerns should be, what we should be fearing, what should be a threat to us. First and foremost, when we talk about white supremacy in this country, we're not solely talking about terrorism. We're not solely talking about mass shootings. But then again, when you are the white nationalist network like Fox News, it's not like you really understand that, nor do you actually understand black people. Now, again, you need to understand the strategy and how they operate. Will Cain, who is now hosting this week for the 8 o'clock hour after they fired Carlson, he was talking to Nikki Haley, okay? The same Nikki Haley who supported the Confederate flag when it was up in South Carolina, and she felt there were bigger issues to focus on. So who does she decide to blame for this dramatic increase in white nationalism and white domestic terrorism? Oh, the black guy, President Barack Obama.
Why do politicians insist on dividing us and seemingly pushing us toward a race war?
You look, inflation's running rampant. You've got wokeism in schools. You've got crime at all-time highs. You've got, illegal immigrants, the totally open border. You've got China on the march. And that has nothing to do with race. And the idea that he brought up white supremacy goes back to exactly what you said. It started with Obama. Now it's with Biden. The leftists insert race into everything. And all that does is pit people against each other, and it doesn't allow us to get to any solutions. So their answer to everything is to blame everybody.
Oh, so Nimrata, she actually is trying to blame Obama. It was his fault. Oh, and the left injects race. Never mind the reality that Donald Trump press so many racial buttons, and that's who he was speaking to. See, what I need y'all to understand is the strategy here, okay? What they're angry about, and I need you to listen to me very carefully, okay? What they're angry about, they do not want to see a significant black turnout in 2024. So what they're doing is they're attacking Biden, even though this has not been the first time, and listen to me clearly, this has not been the first speech that he's given where he mentioned white supremacy. He literally gave it in the State of the Union. What they're angry about is that he talked about it to a group of highly educated black folks. What they're angry about is that he is speaking to an issue that we know resonates with black folks, because those students had to deal with a bomb scare on the campus of Howard University. Yesterday, Jackson State, bomb scare. Today, Prairie View A&M University evacuated because of a bomb scare. Listen. So what they're freaking out about, they are freaking out is because they want to see black voter turnout go down. They do not want to see black folks turning out in significant numbers. And so I need you to understand strategy. And then you have Elon Musk, from South Africa apartheid, that Elon Musk who made his money off daddy making a lot of money in racist South Africa. He took offense to the shooter in Allen, Texas, being called a white supremacist. And Musk goes, "How dare you?" in an interview on CNBC. Listen.
You link to somebody who's talking about the guy who killed children in a mall in Allen, Texas. You say something like it might be a bad psyop. I'm not quite sure what you meant, but...
Oh, in that particular case, there was somehow that's not that that obviously people were killed, but it was, I think, incorrectly ascribed to be a white supremacist action. And the evidence for that was some obscure Russian website that no one's ever heard of, that had no followers. And the company that found this is Bellingcat.
Right.
And do you know what Bellingcat does? PsyOps.
Right. I couldn't really even follow exactly what it was you were trying to express there, so that's in part why I was curious.
I'm saying that I thought the ascribing it to white supremacy was bullshit.
Okay.
And that the information for that came from an obscure Russian website and was somehow magically found by Bellingcat, which is a company that does PsyOps.
And there's no proof, by the way, that he was not.
There's no. I would say that there's no proof that he is.
And that's a debate you want to get into on Twitter?
Yes. Because we should not be ascribing things to white supremacy if it's false.
There's no proof that he is, even though law enforcement laid out how this guy was a white supremacist. Law enforcement, they even showed tattoos, neo-Nazi swastikas on his body. What the hell do you call that, Elon? This is the same Elon who has brought back racist, white supremacists, neo-Nazis on Twitter, Nick Fuentes and others. So again, I'm trying to connect the dots so y'all can understand what is at play here. Why is Fox News and white conservatives so angry because President Biden has been calling out white supremacists? Because that is the base of the Republican Party. What you are seeing, the racial attacks, what you're seeing of the Nikki Haley's of the world, trying to blame woke, trying to blame leftists, trying to blame progressives for the attacks on critical race theory, on diversity, equity, inclusion. No, that's all the GOP. I need y'all to understand what the game is. They are scared to death that black people and conscious white people are going to turn on in mass numbers to reject them. So now they're trying to turn the story. Guys, show the photo. Elon Musk says there was no evidence the shooter in Allen was the white supremacists. What the hell do you call this? What do you call this? The racist that killed 10 black people in Buffalo. But Musk, who now owns Twitter, he now can control the algorithm. He goes out and goes, oh no, blast this group saying, hey, what they said was just not true. It wasn't factual. And cats are now run with that. We come back. I'm going to talk to one of the leaders of Media Matters to further explain to you and talk with someone of the SPLC, Southern Poverty Law Center. They've been tracking hate groups for years. You need to understand what is at play and why they are doing this. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered, the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shootings.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
My name is Charlie Wilson.
Hi, I'm Sally Richardson-Whitfield.
And I'm Jonathan Whitfield. Hey everybody, this is your man Fred Hammond, and you're watching Roland Martin, my man, Unfiltered.
We have these witnesses up here who are trying to tell us, and Mr. Erickson, in his opening statement, let me just point this out. This is the big example that we need to be so worried about, because in Atlanta, apparently, there were 23 individuals arrested for crimes ranging from vandalism to assault. We have 650 people who are murdered in mass shootings every single year. Almost 2 per day mass shootings. Sorry, 600 mass shootings. Far more people. And we're supposed to be talking here about vandalism. Give me a break. You can't even say, you can't sit here, Mr. Erickson. You were an employee of the Department of Homeland Security. And I want to get to that in a minute. You can't even acknowledge what your own agency said, that the biggest domestic terror threat is white nationalism, white supremacy. You're trying to get us, gaslight us up here as if Antifa, which Mr. Rosas, apparently the expert now in organized terrorist activity, has overruled the FBI director who says, there's a headline, says Antifa is an ideology, not an organization. No, no, no. Let's not listen to the FBI director. Let's listen to, sorry, what's your title? Senior writer at Town Hall, who is going to tell us that the FBI director is wrong. And I'd like to introduce, there's no question. I'd like to introduce, by unanimous consent, an AP article saying the FBI director says Antifa is an ideology, not an organization.
That was Congressman Dan Goldman. Let me bring in right now, folks, a couple of guests joining us. First and foremost, Craig Harrington. He is the research director for Media Matters for America. Jalea Lyles Dunn, Director, Southern Poverty Law Center's Learning for Justice. Glad to have you both. Craig, I want to start with you. Again, you guys have been tracking Fox News, conservative media for a very long time. And I'm trying to get people to understand there is no coincidence that Biden gives this speech at Howard on Saturday, and Fox and Friends is attacking him on Sunday, and Outnumbered is attacking him on Monday, and then The Five, and Jesse Waters, and Will Cain. We can go on and on and on. And so this tracks with Ben Shapiro. We could go on. It tracks with what the right wing does, how they, again, marshal their forces, all of a sudden talk about the very same thing. Not the other issues he mentioned in the speech, but white supremacy, because they are deathly afraid of people pairing, frankly, their followers with what Biden's talking about.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, and I want to thank you again for having me on. What we saw over the weekend on May 13th, on Saturday, President Joe Biden addresses the graduating class at Howard University. And congratulations to all of the graduates of class of 2023. It's hard to believe how long ago it was. I was graduating from college myself. But during his remarks, it was typical sort of like aspirational commencement fare. He spoke about a specific domestic threat to stability and security. And the ironic thing is, so many of the right-wing media persona and so many of the Republican elected officials who are empowered and emboldened by that echo chamber, they're accusing Biden of exaggerating the threat by dramatically themselves exaggerating what he said. What he said is that white supremacy is the single most dangerous domestic terror threat in our homeland. Full stop. That is absolutely true. That's been demonstrated by the Department of Homeland Security. That's been demonstrated by the Department of Justice. That's been demonstrated independently by the FBI. And that's been demonstrated by leadership of those agencies during the Obama administration, during the Trump administration, and during the Biden administration. There is no political persuasion to this. This is simply the leading law enforcement and counterterror experts in our government acknowledging that the biggest threat from a domestic terrorism perspective is the growing, burgeoning, latent white supremacist movement in the United States. And what we saw from the right-wing media echo chamber in response to Biden's, frankly, innocuous statement of a simple fact is a rush to exaggerate it, and a rush not just to defend the honor of white supremacy against this accusation from the Biden administration, but also an attempt to make him seem like he was being hysterical when it's actually them who are driving the hysterics and who are dramatically exaggerating what was otherwise a very simple statement from the president, pointing to a group of individuals who understand white supremacy innately, who have been the target of it. You pointed out, like, this is a campus that has received multiple physical threats, serious and significant threats against its personnel and against its student body. He doesn't need to tell them this statement of facts. They know these things, and they know them innately if they weren't learning that there in that room. But the media hysterics from the right, from Fox News, from the podcasters, from the YouTube extremists, it really points to their own their commonality, or their sense of commonality with this, what you were describing as the Republican base. The rush to defend white supremacy against this attack, these accusations from the liberal woke mob at the FBI, it really is telling on themselves that they see this as a core constituency that they need to defend. In addition to the electoral and political calculus that they're employing, where the hope is to imply that Biden is somehow racially divisive and unworthy of the support of these future Black voters in 2024. We're also seeing the same rallying effect where they're kind of trying to defend their own voting base against these accusations. It's interesting to see how many people, when they hear white supremacy being lamented, they feel that innately. They feel like it's a personal attack to themselves, and rather than reflecting on how they feel so personally connected to white supremacy, they instead deny that it's something that even exists.
See, Jalea, what I find to be interesting, Senator Tommy Tuberville, truly one of the dumbest members of Congress, when he criticized, when he talked about the military trying to root out white nationalism, he goes, well, my problem is, he said, when I hear white supremacists, they're talking about MAGA. Hit dog hollering. And so what we're actually hearing, the fact that they are responding so viciously, really what they're responding to is he's talking about you. And that's why they're ticked off.
I think you're right there. The big lie, and I hate to use that term again, but the big cover up, let's use that, is to say that white supremacists are a certain group or a certain way, or is this look and it looks this way, and we're only seeing this what isn't real. It's real. People live this. It's injustice. It is oppression. It's how systems interlock to make one population higher and higher in a higher level or higher importance than other populations. We know non-white populations, black and brown communities are at the bottom when it comes to white supremacy. So that's what they want to present. They say we're teaching that in schools. We're not teaching that. It is how people live. It's how we are showing up in life. This is how your systems have put people on the margins. They have pushed people out from voting. They have disenfranchised populations. It is all that in play. It is interlocking systems of oppression. It is injustice. It's all of that. It is so complex because our system of this country has intertwined white supremacy in a way where it goes throughout in every system, whether it's education, whether it's the voting system, whether it is the prison system, it is every system across our country. It is our electoral system, is everything. White supremacy shows its head. And so to now pretend like it is one thing, it's not another thing. It is America. It is how we built this country. Until we come to truth about what this country and how this country was built, be honest about the race consciousness and grapple about what we're dealing with and then find reconciliation around it, we're going to always have this conversation. We're going to always have this argument. We're going to always have one side saying, this is what really is happening, and sounding crazy as they did in those videos. And as you said, other senators who want to uplift this type of nonsense. But it's two different stories, and no one is agreeing on the real story. There is a real story at play that really happened in this country that really is built on the system of white supremacy, on the legacy of white supremacy, and we're still trying to dismantle it. Those HBCUs were put in place so that young black folk right out of college could come right out of being enslaved, and from the legacy of enslaved descendants can come into a school and understand they were meant to be here, that they are great, that they are special, and that white supremacy is real. So the fact that you even question that a historically black college or university should not believe that is defying everything they were built on. They were built to know that was true, and they were built to know that their job was to show up despite and dismantle that system that tells them that they are less than, but they are greater than, they are better than, and they can run this country and lead this country from their greatness. I am a graduate of HBCU, so that's why I want to stand in that space too, where I was taught that.
Craig, the thing here, and again, what I need people to understand, it's the narrative. It's the setting of the narrative. That's what Fox News is doing, and so what they're trying to say to all of their white listeners, because they don't have many black people who are watching them. They're trying to say they're attacking you, they're coming for you. I don't care what Nikki Haley says, the Republican Party desperately needs to gin up race in order to drive and stoke the white fear of their voting base, because they need that turnout. That's what Moms for Liberty does. That's what the whole anti-CRT stuff was all about. That's what now with the whole DEI stuff was all about. Fox News wasn't covering these races. They were marching in Washington, D.C. on this weekend because they know that's who watches them.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you pointed out, you began this sort of segment by highlighting Jesse Watters. Jesse Watters, the rumor mill is churning here about Fox News. Jesse Watters seems to be one of the primary beneficiaries of the downfall of Tucker Carlson late last month. Tucker Carlson ran what we had derisively coined as the white power hour on Fox News in that 8 p.m. time slot. He was the most divisive. He was the most outrageous and probably the best performer of white supremacy and this sort of treating racism as something that is an accusation against white people as opposed to a problem in our society that ought to be handled systemically. Jesse Watters is the one who seems to be the most likely to succeed and benefit from Tucker Carlson's downfall, and he is really kind of stretching his wings, stretching his legs, so to speak, and getting himself spooled up for the role. He already has a primetime show. but he has been using this launching pad from The Five, this talk show that is one of their most popular programs, into his primetime segments, where he is really, really leaning into this rhetoric. This seems like it's going to become his hobby horse, and it's his area that he can own and he can drive, and he can gain more viewers. He can sort of succeed Tucker Carlson as the intellectual leader of Fox News. And that's really scary, because not only is Jesse Waters like himself quite mediocre and terrible, and someone who espouses truly horrible viewpoints, but he's someone who is absolutely an opportunist, and who's willing to reach for whatever is available to him to chase down the next brass ring and to climb the rungs of power at Fox News. And it's very likely that he'll be the successor, intellectually and otherwise, of Tucker Carlson in that sort of like primary white supremacist role. And it's important to think here, Fox News isn't a news outlet. They're not a media organization. They are a political apparatus. They're not the communications arm of the Republican Party. They're the party. And Tucker Carlson ran the party in 2022, kind of ran it into the ground. Then he cost his boss $800 million, so they threw him out. But if Jesse Waters is the guy who's going to be steering the ship in 2024, he's not the brightest bulb in the bunch, so he might drive them into the rocks or into a brick wall the same way Carlson did. But the road to that end is going to be very scary, because there's really no third rail for him. He will touch anything. He will say anything. If it gets in those viewers and it gets in the numbers.
Indeed. Craig, with me, man, we appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. Jalea, I appreciate you joining us, Craig. Jalea, I got about 1 minute left in the segment. I want to give you the final comment. Y'all track these white supremacist groups, and the reality is the numbers don't lie. We are seeing a dramatic increase. They are reaching out to next generation because they are pressing the white fear buttons.
Absolutely. And the groups are growing. You're so right. And the types of groups, the radicalization of younger people, the radicalization of folk that you wouldn't have thought would be around the table, that traditionally wouldn't be considered white supremacists, is being tracked this year. We have new reports coming out soon. You should stay tuned of who we have tracked in our states and across our country at this point. And the numbers are increasing, and they're increasing in different ways and across different topic types. So this is real. This is happening. We are not making it up, and it's our job to make people know, to be aware, to be clear, and to not believe whatever junk and these well-funded political media systems have put in place. Because it's not. This is real, and it's real life, and it is a danger to our democracy and to our country.
Indeed. Jalea of the SPLC. Michelle, appreciate it. Thanks. Thank you. Want to thank Craig for joining us. Folks, we come back. I'll talk to my panel about this very issue. Again, I'm trying to warn you what's going on here, folks. This is all about electoral politics. You need to understand why they are so angry, and we must be prepared to exercise our power. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network.
That was a pivotal time. I remember Kevin Hart telling me that. He's like, man, what you doing, man? You got to stay on stage. And I was like, yeah, well, I'm young, thinking, like, I'm good. And he was absolutely right.
What show did you have at that?
This was one-on-one.
Got it.
During that time.
So you're doing one-on-one, going great, you making money, you like...
I'm like, I don't need to leave. I don't need to leave from, Wednesday, Thursday to Sunday. I didn't want to do that. It was just like, I'm going to stay here. Or I didn't want to finish work Friday, fly out, go do a gig Saturday, Sunday. I was like, I don't have to do that. And I lost a little bit of that hunger that I had in New York. I would hit all the clubs and run around. Sometimes me and Chappelle, or me and this one or that one, we'd go to the Comedy Cellar at 1 a.m. And that was our life. And we loved it. You do 2 shows in Manhattan, go to Brooklyn, leave Brooklyn, go to Queens, go to Jersey. And I got complacent. I was like, I got this money, I'm good. I don't need to go chase that, because that money wasn't at the same level that I was making, but what I was missing was that training.
Yes.
Was that.
And it wasn't the money.
It was the money. It was that's what I needed.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
You will not
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
Hey, I'm Donnie Simpson.
Hi, I'm Eric Nolan.
I'm Shantae Moore.
Hi, my name is LaToya Luckett, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, introducing our panel, Robert Patillo. He is the host, People, Passion, Politics, News and Talk, 1380 WAOK in Atlanta. Joe Richardson, civil rights attorney out of Los Angeles as well. Glad to have both of you here. Rebecca Carruthers also joins us. She, of course, based here out of D.C. And, of course, one of our fair elections experts. She's VP for the Fair Elections Center. All right, so Robert, I want to start with you. So again, I'm always looking at connecting the dots. I'm always looking at how these things are all interrelated and how these things move. And when you see the right wing all of a sudden start saying the exact same stuff, it's as if a massive memo went out. It was called like red alert, everybody, all hands on deck. Attack Biden and white supremacy.
Oh, that's not as if what's happened. That's what happened. I got the email. I'm still on a couple of their email lists. And that's exactly what went out, because they see this as an opportunity, because what they believe is that white America is so afraid of anything that involves doing anything for black people that this is a political win for them. Tommy Tuberville wouldn't come out and say that he supports white nationalists if they had not already had a meeting and done polling showing that white Americans very much support that conceptualization. You will not see this kind of circling of hands around individuals and pushing forward this, things that used to be taboo in American society as now being mainstream in Republican politics. Republicans used to at least lie. about being against diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now they pass laws about being against diversity, equity, and inclusion. Imagine a governor 10 years ago or 20 years ago coming out like DeSantis did this week and saying, I want to stop diversity in college education in my state. Now, they would have roundly been run out of American politics, but today, because they've tribalized white politics so much, now that is a benefit to them. So this is not some kind of error. This is a planned electoral strategy that they believe helps them. And I want to key in on what that interview with Elon Musk was about. Because Elon Musk, we treat him as if he's just your normal crazed billionaire. But in reality, he is the world's largest welfare queen. Elon Musk does not have real and actual money. What he has is government handouts. And I think that it is time for us as Black people to start going after those government handouts that he's getting. He just got $3 billion from the United States government last year for the human landing system as part of the Artemis program. We need to be contacting NASA Administrator Bill Nelson and also Senator Patty Murray, who's over the Senate Appropriations Committee, and say to reopen the competition for that human landing system, allow Jeff Bezos and Blue Origin, allow Dynetics, allow many of the other companies that bid on it to open that back up. Because why are we paying Elon Musk $3 billion to support white supremacy? In addition to that, we have many U.S. Space Force payloads that are on the Falcon 9 rocket. Those can be done by Aerojet Rocketdyne. They can be done by many other launch providers instead of the United States government paying Elon Musk hundreds of millions of dollars every month to put their apparatuses into space. So we really want to do something about the spread of white supremacy. Elon Musk in that interview said, well, I don't care if I lose money. Let's see it. Let's find out, because we should not be using American tax dollars to support white supremacy. So we got to put our foot down when it comes to people like Elon Musk.
Rebecca, the point Robert makes there, they now know Donald Trump has allowed them to openly embrace white nationalism. You literally have white supremacists who are in Congress. When you listen to Marjorie Taylor Greene, white supremacist. When you listen to Lauren Boebert, white supremacist. Paul Gosar and spoke at the conference of white nationalist Nick Fuentes and has staff members who are on his staff right now. A new report came out that is aligned with him. These are simple facts. The Republican Party knows white nationalists, those are their voters, and they want no one attacking them.
Roland, this is about power and it's about money as well. Because Fox News and some of the other platforms that participated in this coordinated effort to fight back against President Biden calling out white supremacy as one of the greatest threats to America, they all make money off of peddling white supremacy. Tucker Carlson, it is so interesting that as many years that Tucker Carlson has peddled white supremacy, all of a sudden a text went too far and they have to do something about it. No, he actually started to lose money for Fox. So Fox was fine with white supremacy until they started to lose money. But when we take a step back and we look at the power aspect of this, is you mentioned that there are members of Congress who are white supremacists. And there's also local sheriff, there are district attorneys, there are judges, there are people in pretty powerful positions that impact people's day-to-day life who are also white supremacists. Their base, their political power has been built based upon white supremacy. And what's also important to note here, it was very divisive for some of these platforms over the last couple of days to point to Asian Americans as if Asian Americans are model minorities and saying, oh, well, if whiteness is America is so bad, then why are Asian Americans on average making more money than white people? You know what? This is very disingenuous. I bet if they actually allowed for critical race theory to actually be taught, they would actually understand what exactly is white supremacy instead of throwing out this really stupid response and rhetoric.
Joe, the reason I have focused on this now for the third consecutive day is because I need Black folks who are watching and listening to understand they want Black people in 2024 to do what many of us did in 2016. Donald Trump thanked Black people for not voting. That's what they want. We saw a drop-off in the 2022 midterm elections, and they are hoping there's a repeat of that in 2024.
Absolutely. It's interesting because you have a situation where, as it pertains to white supremacy, I mean, to Robert's point, DeSantis and everybody else, they're passing the laws that they want to. They're talking about these things in the open. So as it pertains to white supremacy, we can do it, we can instigate it, we can support it, but we don't want Joe Biden talking about it because that elevates the discussion and that creates the urgency that brings people out. Even though they are trying to grow their base and trying to grow the number of people that would vote their way by stoking certain fears that are very, very, very evident. It's actually an old playbook. It's a little bit more out front now, but it's an old playbook. Get black folks that don't have a whole lot and white folks that don't have a whole lot fighting against each other. Remind the white person that at least he's superior to you, but not if you let them take this away from you. And so you support us. And meanwhile, the income gap grows, those that have and have not grows. And hopefully, it's a two-step plan. Draw out more of their voters. But Republicans tend to lose high turnout elections. You've still got to suppress. You still got to keep people from voting. Republicans aren't trying to go get black people's votes anymore, if they ever were. What they're trying to do is keep them home by hook and by crook. You either get rid of the urgency, which Biden goes against by talking about what he's talking about and elevating the discussion, particularly with people that are educated, or you suppress them so that they can't vote, so that millions of them are disfranchised. And so elections that are decided by the smallest margins, you end up winning instead of losing. And so, that's the whole point, is to, by hook and by crook, win these elections, keep people from voting, either through a lack of excitement, a lack of urgency, or a lack of ability through the laws that you pass, and at the same time, draw out your voters so that you can continue to get across.
Hold tight 1 second. I'm going to go to the break. We're going to pick up more as we come back. And I'm going to also show you again, that story about Paul Gosar, the congressman from Arizona, staff members having ties to white supremacists. How you had individuals who were running in the midterms who wanted to be governor and Secretary of State and Attorney General who are aligned with white supremacists, openly avowed white supremacists. I'm telling y'all, this ain't no joke. Don't sit here and play games here. These people absolutely want to hold power, and they are afraid of being called out. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. YouTube folks, hit that like button. Also, download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Also, join our Bring the Funk fan club. Your dollars make it possible for us to do what we do. Check out money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is RolandSMartin.com. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
On the next A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, we're talking about leveling up, or to put it another way, living your very best life. How to take a bold step forward that'll rock your world.
Leveling up is different for everybody. I think we fall into this trap, which often gets us stuck because we're looking at someone else's level up journey, what leveling up means to them. For some, it might be a business venture. For some, it might be a relationship situation, but it's different for everybody.
It's all a part of A Balanced Life. That's next on Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. We look at one of the most influential and prominent Black Americans of the 20th century. His work literally changed the world. Among other things, he played a major role in creating the United Nations. He was the first African American and first person of color to win the Nobel Peace Prize. And yet today, he is hardly a household name. We're talking, of course, about Ralph J. Bunche. A new book refers to him as the absolutely indispensable man.
His lifelong interest and passion in racial justice, specifically in the form of colonialism. And he saw his work as an activist and advocate for the Black community here in the United States as just the other side of the coin of his work trying to roll back European empire in Africa.
Author Cal Rostiala will join us to share his incredible story. That's on the next Black Table, here on the Black Star Network.
Hello, everyone. It's Kiara Sheard.
Hey, I'm Taj.
I'm Coco.
And I'm Lily. And we're SWV.
What's up, y'all? It's Ryan Destiny, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, welcome back. Roland Martin Unfiltered. Is interesting, Robert, these hearings, and you see how now they want to reframe it. And I love the whole deal. Oh, black people, you should be really more concerned about this and this and this. I love how they always want to deflect and tell us what the hell we should be focused on and what we should be more concerned about.
Well, you know, it's funny. What I thought of was the last time I had a conservative on. My first question was, well, what is the conservative agenda for black people? And their answer is, well, you shouldn't need a conservative agenda for black people. So they don't want to actually have an agenda that benefits the black community. They want to continue to uphold and support white supremacy. But then when you have somebody like Joe Biden talking about the issue, because let's not pretend Joe Biden has been, you know, the end-all be-all for black folks when it comes to things such as criminal justice reform, when it comes to issues on police reform, when it comes to many things that they put in the agenda in 2020 that we thought we would have right now, but at least he's willing to speak to the issue. And in the last several weeks, we've seen many things the Republicans were counting on to kind of bring Biden down not work. People don't really care that much about Title 42 ending. People don't really care that much about the Bureau report. The economy is going great. The 3.4% unemployment rate. You're looking at gas prices that are $1 lower today than they were a year ago. And because of that, they have to find new things to try to run on without actually having any policy. So their entire campaign strategy for 2024, they're showing you right now, it is going to be stoking the racial fears of white people. They're trying to scare the hell out of white people enough that they can bring Trump back into office. And it's our duty, our job, to make sure that doesn't work.
Rebecca, this is why I wrote this. And it's amazing. All of these mainstream media folk don't want to have a brother on talk about it. And I'm sitting here going, don't y'all see what's going on? This is playing out in front of your face. But again, the problem with white mainstream media, which I wrote about in the book, White Fear, they are part of the problem. Those executives, those producers, they don't like the fact that this is also talking about them, even some of them who are progressive, so-called.
Well, you know what's really interesting here? It's not good enough to speak out against white supremacy. If you're not actively anti-racist, you are a problem in America. You are a part of the problem. Whether you are black, whether you are white, whether you are Hispanic, you have to be actively anti-racist. And so what's really interesting when you think about how important communications and media is in a country, if we're trying to invade a country, one of the first things we do is try to take out the communications. If you're trying to control a country, the first thing you do is you take on and you run communications, i.e. you run media. So if you are committed to white supremacy in this country, then the number one way that you're going to show that commitment and push forward white supremacy is through media, through communications, because that's how you talk to the masses. So what we see here is that there are folks within mainstream media who have a vested interest in white supremacy because it's how they get their views, it's how they get their power, it's how they make their money. Is one reason why we see a particular network that decided to do a unfettered town hall with Donald J. Trump, who we know to be a white supremacist, without actually asking the follow-up questions or even framing the town hall in a way that would actually hold him accountable for many of his misdeeds while he was in office and the misdeeds since he's been out of office. So there's too much money and too much power to be had in white supremacy. And that's the reason why we don't see mainstream media and we don't see even the mainstream Americans holding those who are actively peddling white supremacy and holding those folks accountable.
You know, Joe, again, what Robert said, and while we're laying this thing out to every black person, and look, there are people who watch us who are not black. There are people who watch us who are white, who are Latino, and they need to understand the Republican Party, we have seen this since 2016. They are the party of white America. Yeah, you got some black people, yeah, you got some Latinos, but they are about appealing to white people. And this is about fear. It's about getting them afraid. They're taking, look, as an ad we have, they're taking your jobs. They're coming for our women. They're coming for everything. They're coming for our culture, our way of life. That's what they're all about. And so this here, by attacking Biden for calling out, and again, this ain't Biden just going, well, what the hell, I can talk about it. You literally have law enforcement, intelligence folks in the United States that are saying white domestic terrorism is the #1 homegrown threat. But their whole deal is, how dare you, because they are the ones who are out campaigning for Donald Trump, for DeSantis, for the Republican Party across the country, north, south, east, and west.
How dare you talk about what's true? How dare you actually accept the suggestion that the laws that you're trying to pass, the things that you're trying to do, who you've elected and supported for president, actually suggest that you are connected to, if not a white supremacist yourself, then connected to white supremacy and an acknowledged beneficiary of white supremacy. So how dare you treat things as they really are and call it like you really see it? And again, to the point that was made earlier, you know, Joe Biden ain't always been, you know, on the front of every bastion of liberalism. You know, he's nobody's far left, guys. Matter of fact, the progressives will tell you that and remind you that. But he gets it wrong and has gotten it wrong all the time on things like that. Probably had backroom conversations with him. And now here he is talking about white supremacy being the greatest domestic threat. You know, again, but you've got the laws that you're passing, you've got the things that you're doing, and you're saying you're not a duck, but you're quacking, you're swimming in water, you got web feet and everything else. So it's interesting. They've been able to do this in plain sight, though. I mean, you know, you got to give them a little, you got to give them a little slack here, guys, because at the end of the day, these cats had Donald Trump say the things that he said, and because we are a sexist country, and because we didn't like Hillary's personality, and we didn't show up, we didn't elect her, you know, we have not elected people that we normally would elect. I mean, George Bush probably was the biggest beneficiary of Donald Trump's whole thing, because it's all like George Bush, everything is everything, like he never did anything wrong. He had some problems down there in Florida, and that same Florida state that gave him the election, as it turns out, the Supreme Court did, is the same Florida that's having the problems now. Well, we forget that we've been here in a way.
Well, absolutely. All right, folks, hold tight 1 second. Got to go to a break. We'll be back on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Yo, let me shout out Donnell Rawlings, my man. He sent his candles. We always burn them, his 100% organic soy wax candles. And yeah, you know, he had to say, I smell rich. You know, with his little slogan. But appreciate it, Donnell. Thanks a bunch, my brother. Y'all, we'll be right back on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, nurses are the backbone of the healthcare industry, and yet only 7% of them are Black. What's the reason for that low number? Well, a lack of opportunities and growth in their profession. Joining us on the next Get Wealthy is Needy Bartanilli. She's going to be sharing exactly what nurses need to do and what approach they need to take ownership of their success.
So the Black Nurse Collaborative really spawned from a place and a desire to create opportunities to uplift each other, those of us to also look and reach back and create pipelines and opportunities for other nurses like us.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
Next, right here on The Frequency, the woman they call the Gifted Eye, hip-hop celebrity photographer Coy Soldier. She's the master storyteller that captured the history of hip-hop through the lens of her camera.
Tupac comes out, the next thing you know, you didn't know who they were at first. You just seen all these dudes just come rushing the stage. Then you realize Biggie gets a bottle of champagne, he pops it open, sprays it on the crowd, he drinks the bottle.
Corey Soldier, the hip-hop celebrity photographer, joining me right here on the next episode of The Frequency on the Black Star Network.
Hey, I'm Cupid, the maker of the Cupid Shuffle and the Wham Dance.
What's going on? This is Tobias Trevelyan. If you're ready, you are listening to and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, so the GOP in their whole crime, they've been attacking Washington, D.C., attacking Muriel Bowser, saying they don't know what the hell they're doing. Well, there was a hearing yesterday on Capitol Hill and was more than usual. But Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett from Texas, she actually, my congresswoman, I'm still registered to vote there. Let's just say she used her 5 minutes to bring the heat to the Republican Party and was even checking them to their faces. Oh, this is good, y'all. This is good.
As is Ms. Crockett from Texas for 5 minutes.
Thank you. I don't know that I can get through all that I need to say in 5 minutes, but I'm going to do my best. We're going to start off with sexual abuse. I am so excited that my colleagues across the aisle care about sexual abuse, considering that the front runner right now for, presidency is kind of just been found liable of sexual abuse. So I'm excited because this may mean that finally some folk will back off from supporting him because we don't support sexual abusers in this chamber. So I'm happy about this. But let's talk about facts versus fiction. My Republican colleagues want to talk about being tough on crime and keeping criminals off the streets. And so we've talked about, let's talk about what is criminal. We've got members of Congress elected in other states, other cities, trying to subvert democracy and the will of the people of D.C. by dictating that the city act in a way the Republicans want because they think they know what's best. Republicans want to subvert the people's power, and it's not just for D.C., it's all over. We see this in states like Texas and North Carolina with gerrymandering. In fact, we still have members here who still think that Trump won in 2020. Republicans want to talk about crime and violence, but they don't want to admit their role in this crisis. The fact is that they still allow assault weapons in the hands of radical right extremists, which have forced families visiting a mall in my state of Texas to leave a mall with nothing more than trauma, hurt, and despair as a neo-Nazi terrorized them, and yet what did they have in their hand? Another AR-15, but we don't want to have a conversation about that. So if we're going to talk about crime and the reasons for the increase in them, we've got to talk about these root causes. Number one, the fact that we have elected legislators that won't do their job and protect people by keeping these weapons off the streets. That's number one. Number two, we are still reeling from a financial crisis, and guess what? They don't want to make it better. I'm sure they all campaigned and said, oh, we're going to help out the economy post-COVID. But right now, we are on a cliff over the debt ceiling. The debt ceiling that was raised 3 times under Trump, and 25% of this credit card bill that they don't want to pay was accrued under Trump, and he only had 1 term. And hopefully he won't have no more. Nevertheless, I digress. Let me move on. So let's also talk about the fact that just recently, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, we received reports that there is a staff member who's working for a Republican on this committee who has ties with and supports a white nationalist who has proclaimed himself to be just like Hitler. I don't really know what to say, except for the fact that this is a farce, all right? Because the fact is, we've got an increase in crime all over. If we really want to be real about it, let's talk about it. We're talking about D.C. right now, but the murder rates in red states like Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama have statistically exceeded those in blue states like Illinois, New Mexico, and Michigan every year since 2000. But since my colleagues feel the need to meddle in local affairs of D.C., then let's look at where there might be issues. To be clear, D.C. doesn't control most of its own post-arrest criminal justice system. Instead, the federal government administers most of it. So I have a few questions, yes or no, for you, Mayor Bowser. The federal government, not D.C., has the authority to prosecute nearly all crimes committed by adults under D.C. law.
That's correct.
The federal government appoints judges to the local D.C. courts.
That's correct.
The federal government has jurisdiction over community supervision and adults charged or convicted of D.C. crimes.
That's correct.
The federal government has jurisdiction over the incarceration of adults convicted of felonies under D.C. law.
Correct.
Lastly, Mayor Bowser, isn't the federal government responsible for parole and supervised release of people convicted of felonies under D.C. law?
Yes.
Thank you. The fact is, my Republican colleagues want to talk about keeping D.C. streets crime-free. They can't even keep the halls of Congress crime-free, because we gonna talk about this, because I got 24 seconds. My freshman colleague has just been indicted on 13 counts, 13 felony counts, right? But have they exhibited any courage to say, you know what, we will disallow this in our body. We will make sure that we expel this individual. They have not. So what I don't want to hear is that they care about crime, because if they did, they would start by cleaning up our own house and mind our own business instead of coming after D.C. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
Ooh, Rebecca, she was lit.
You love to see it. You know, what she said was very important, because I don't think most Americans understand that under home rule, or the lack of home rule, D.C. basically, their hands are tied in what they can and cannot do when it comes to responding to criminal activity and criminal arrest and criminal threats in the capital city. But not only that, D.C. actually got together, worked with a lot of community activists, advocates, as well as criminal justice reform experts to actually revise the D.C. criminal code. And they came up with something that ended up being a great product. But instead, we see that Congress is interfering with D.C.'s right to determine its own destiny, its right to determine how best to deal with crime within its borders. Instead, you see hypocrisy of the current Congress, who isn't paying attention, like Jasmine Crockett said, to what's happening within Congress. You literally have people who are indicted in this Congress, but this Congress isn't doing anything. I think it's time for Speaker McCarthy to let us know, are you pro-crime or are you anti-crime? They keep asking Democrats who are running for office in cities across the country if they're going to be hard on crime or soft on crime. I think it's time to ask Speaker McCarthy, are you going to be hard on crime or are you going to be soft on crime?
It was just hilarious just watching these nutcases, Joe, just drawing on and on and on. And when Representative Crockett lays it out, they're trying to blame D.C. for something the federal government has control over. And guess what? They run government.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Perhaps prophetically in other parts of the country where there's a lot of black majority rule, potentially, the state is now changing things where they can come in and governor appointed folks can take over for judges, can remove DAs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the fact of the matter is, in D.C., they already have that control. They actually already get to sign off and have final say on much of what goes on in D.C. And so here comes D.C. with a plan that lends toward responsible self-determination, which is what they've been looking for a long, long time. And really, they reject it out of hand just because they can. So, so how are they not responsible, though, if they're the ones that have the last say? So D.C. created its own problems, but D.C. doesn't actually get to enforce and bring about its own rules. You can't have it both ways. And if you are anti-crime, if you are hard on crime or whatever else, start in your own body. You got some straight up thugs up in here walking up and down the hallways, and you won't kick them because you're concerned that you're going to lose a seat in Congress. So, you're going to have to figure out what it is that you're going to do and walk this walk that's related to this talk. Because at the end of the day, ultimately, D.C. is not in its own hands the way that it wants to be and desires to be. Why don't you let D.C. be in its own hands? And then once D.C. messes up, now you can start to make that a political thing and blame them. But if it's all laid at your feet and you're all ultimately responsible for it anyway, how are you pointing fingers at D.C. saying it's your fault, even though I'm in charge?
And you know what, Robert? I mean, there are some dumb people, but there's no doubt in my mind that one of the absolute, undeniably dumbest people, now that Louis Gohmert is no longer in Congress, is this fool Clay Higgins from Louisiana. I mean, listen to this hick. You think Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene are dumb? I think he dumber. He like Tommy Tuberville level dumb. Listen to this.
You've just testified regarding your specific role, your personal role in the days leading up to January 6th in the D.C. National Guard. Do you have counsel present, ma'am?
No.
Do you wish to amend your testimony in any way regarding what you stated today?
I do not.
Very well. Mayor Bowser, you are the mayor of Washington, D.C., correct?
I am.
And Washington, D.C. is the capital of the United States of America, correct?
It is.
The Capitol is the home of the entire seat of our government, the executive branch, the legislative branch, the judicial branch. The president is here, the vice president is here, 435 congressional offices, 100 Senate offices, the Supreme Court. All departments of the government are headquartered here. All agencies are headquartered here. In your knowledge, you're a very intelligent American. You have a clear understanding of history. In your knowledge, ma'am, is there any other municipality in these United States that has access to our seat of government as the citizens of Washington, D.C.?
Actually, they all have more access because they have voting members of Congress and
I'll ask
senators.
you to restrict your answers to my question. So let's go there.
Robert, then they're like, let me remind you, no clapping allowed in hearings. Well, they were clapping because dumbass looked like a fool.
Yeah, any first-year mock trial professor can tell you, when you're doing that type of quote-unquote cross-examination, don't ask open-ended questions and don't ask questions you don't know the answer to. You have to make sure you box them in so there's only one answer, which should be a yes or no answer. And he got, somebody out-lawyered him on the lawyering. I think he would end up very embarrassed. And this part of the issue that we have with Republicans right now, because as I mentioned earlier, you have the Durham report come out earlier this week or last week, talking about the issues with the FBI and using flimsy evidence to go after Trump. Okay, fine. And you have Republicans, people like Vivek, the guy running for president, can't pronounce his last name, some other members of Congress saying, we need to abolish the FBI. We need to abolish law enforcement. We have to abolish the Department of Justice. Well, if that is your view on law enforcement when it comes to somebody potentially abusing President Trump, well, what about the way law enforcement has been treating black folks in this country for the last 400 years? When we march and say that we need to do something about over-policing in America, they say that we're calling for defunding the police. But when Donald Trump literally says we need to abolish the FBI and federal law enforcement because they're coming after me for backing the blue, that is being pro-law enforcement. These people don't think about things before they say them. They don't put any policy considerations into what they say. They don't care about hypocrisy or something stupid anymore. It's all about what plays well on conservative media, what makes a good soundbite for the next podcast you go on, what gets you on a television show, on a radio broadcast later on. And until we deal with this political situation of having these types of elected officials because of low black turnout, because we're not voting our population number to put these people out of office, we're going to continue having these situations with a menagerie of idiots running this country.
Indeed. All right, y'all, going to a break. When we come back, more Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Don't forget, YouTube, hit the like button. We should be way past 1,000 likes on the show. Then, of course, if you're watching on the app, We want you to hit that like and share button as well. Same thing with Facebook. Again, download the Black Star Network app for Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. We also want you to support us. We're now Amazon News. Our 24-hour streaming channel is on Amazon News. You can watch it, folks, right there. Go to Amazon Fire, then go to Amazon News. We're there. You can also support us with your dollars. Send your check and money orders, P.O. Box 5. 7196 Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App $ RM Unfiltered. PayPal R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle Roland@RolandSMartin.com. Roland@RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And of course, be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear: How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Available at bookstores nationwide. Download your copy on Audible. We'll be right back.
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
Hi, I'm Gavin Houston.
Hi, I'm Carl Payne.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your boy Jacob Lattimore, and you're now watching Roland Martin right now.
All right, y'all, Black and Missing here. Of course, we have this young man, DeAndre DeJesus, weighs height 5'11", weighs 140 pounds, black hair and brown eyes. He's been missing from Miami, Florida, folks. You know, we always cover these stories. It's important for us to spread the word. If you actually have any information with regards to the whereabouts of this young man, please, we want you to call the Miami Police Department. This absolutely matters, folks, because, again, our kids are missing, and we don't get the same attention as we, of course, see all the time when white folks come up missing, which is why we do this every single day. Now, y'all know if a white woman or a white child came up missing, we would have Amber Alerts going on every single day. And so, please, again, DeAndre DeJesus missing from Miami, folks. And so please, the number is there on the screen, and we want you to please make that phone call because we need this young man to be found. The number again is 305-247-1535, 305-247-1535. And so be sure to check that number out. Actually, I'm sorry. That's actually, giving a different number here. So let me pull this number up here. I have a different one. Let's see here. Here we go. So you got the number there on the screen, and so please call that particular number there. Let's go to headlines, y'all. And first and foremost, Kid Rock is catching a lot of heat because he has contributed $5,000 to the fund of Daniel Perry. That's the white man in New York City who killed Jordan Neely, choked him to death. Here's what's so crazy. More than $2 million has been raised for the defense fund of this former Marine. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis literally put out a tweet asking folks to give. Then Nikki Haley, she comes out. Do we have sound of Nikki Haley on this one? Talking about she actually has called for the governor of New York State, Kathy Hochul, to pardon this dude. Joe, what the hell? You got Texas Governor Greg Abbott being pushed by Tucker Carlson, and he says he's going to pardon the white man, the racist, who killed the white Black Lives Matter protester. Now you got Nikki Haley saying, oh, the governor of New York should pardon this guy. How all of a sudden is Daniel Perry now the latest Kyle Rittenhouse for the Republican Party? So we got it? All right, press play.
Because they will know that there's no accountability for anyone who tries to stop them. Yeah. And if she pardons him, that sets a right on a lot of things. It'll put criminals on notice, and it'll let people like Penny, who really were very brave in that instance, it will let them know that we've got their back.
Exactly. We need more Daniel Pennies, and we don't need a disincentive for strong men or women standing up in moments of crisis. And we need leaders, and this is why I wanted to see what your answer would be to that moment from 2020. We need leaders who will stand up with strength in these moments where we are surrounded by fear. I have to go quickly, but I want to have a longer conversation with you. I hope that we have a longer conversation. But I do want to ask you this question on the way out. It's one that I think—
So while Joe, Penny is now, again, their newest Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah, he is, and he's got $2 million. He'll be able to mount up a pretty good defense, and in liberal New York City, he's got a good chance of at least hanging that jury. You know, New York is very interesting because it reminds you of the paradox that is America. You know, even you think, well, you're in New York, and so therefore, we have Democrat mayors and we have Democratic governors or whatever else. But going back decades, Rudy, Trump. You're at a place that is a hotbed of racism. There's a whole lot of pressure there. And when someone, a white military guy, kills a black man, there's value to that white man's life a little bit more than there is to that black man's life. And so therefore, that's why we've reacted the way that we have. If he killed a white person, this would be a different person, different situation. If it was a black man killing a white person, they'd be wanting to throw the book at him. So suddenly, whether it's in Texas or whether here it's in New York City, you've got folks that are pro-crime and sometimes build their careers on being pro-crime that turn around and say, pardon ahead of time. Don't even let the system do its work, a system that frankly often advantages folks that are white and folks that have resources, and Mr. Perry is in that situation if he wasn't before. I guess the only thing that's funnier in a sad way is the whole idea that Nikki Haley actually thinks she's going to get through this crowd, and actually get the nomination. But we can talk about that some other time.
Look, Robert, these people here, again, whether it's gun enthusiasts, now as this guy, their sheer hatred of homeless people is evident. I mean, why in the hell would you give to a defense fund for a guy who literally choked the life out of somebody on a subway? Then they had some silly-ass black dude on Fox News who was like, oh, everyone on that train was fearing for their life, and they said they thought he had a weapon. I mean, they're just throwing all kind of stuff up. Just go ahead and say, we saw a black man, hey, we cool with a black man getting choked to death.
In these situations, I always bring out my favorite hypothetical figure, who's the imaginary white girl I created named Lily White. And so imagine this situation that Lily White is going through a mental health breakdown on a train, and then a grown man puts his arm around her neck, tackles her to the ground, and chokes her to death. Regardless of the context, there's no set of circumstances where these exact same people will not be calling for his execution. And that's just the reality of America today, that if you are a little white girl, you can put her either a cheerleading outfit or a Girl Scout uniform. So if little Lily White, her college cheerleading outfit, is going through a mental breakdown and is choked to death and strangled on video on a train, there's no set of circumstances where we will see the same reaction to when it's a grown black man going through a mental health crisis being killed. The reason the slogan was, before the group, before the organization, before it was denigrated, Black Lives Matter, is exactly this. We have to give value to Black lives. These people who are donating don't give any value to that Black life. They don't see him any different than being an animal or a rat on the train or a cockroach or any other kind of public nuisance. And when they say, well, the people on the train were happy about that, that to tell you everything you need to know about America right now. Because we're black and we see people who are poor. We see subhumans in large parts of this society. We see individuals who do not have civil rights or human rights or even the right to exist. We see nothing other than a pest. And that's the way they treated this individual. That's the way these donators are treating him. That's the way right-wing media are treating it. They see somebody who kills a black homeless man as a hero the same way that somebody stepped on a spider. And that's the scariest part of this situation, because all you need is one Upper East Side wealthy Fox News MAGA viewer on that jury who may have had one interaction with somebody or a homeless person or someone on the train one time in their life, and this man will be acquitted, and then will take his millions. He'll go on a media tour like Kyle Rittenhouse. He'll write books like George Zimmerman, and he will be set for life, because the value of a black man in this country is so low that it is actually a tradable asset that benefits people for executing.
Rebecca, there was a Latino man in Houston who was on a date, and that was somebody in the parking lot had gotten $20 from the woman he was going to meet on his date and gotten $20 from him. He basically swindled them out of the money. And then when the guy found out that he'd gotten ripped off for $40, he literally got up from the dinner, went outside, went to the parking lot, chased the dude, shot the dude, went back, sat down, and finished the date. It wasn't until a couple of days later that the woman who was on the date, she called the cops, and the guy was arrested for murder. These folks today, they would likely hail him as a hero. And so I'm sitting there going, this dude? And again, I don't know nothing about Daniel Penny, but when you are when you're a former Marine, you are trained to kill in hand-to-hand combat. He knew he could kill that man. He heard this man dying. And these people are saying, oh, that was a great spectacle. These are the folks who if they were back in the Roman days, would be sitting here going, thumbs up, thumbs down. These people are sick and demented.
So let's get this straight. So Nikki Haley, who's a contender for the Republican nomination to be president of the United States of America, just contending for nothing.
Let's be clear, Rebecca. Her ass ain't contending for nothing, but she announced she's running. Go ahead.
So she is acting in furtherance as if she could possibly get the nomination to possibly become the Republican nominee to run for president in these United States of America. She just doubled down and supported vigilantism, and specific white vigilantism, of saying that we need to see people stand up and use strength to deal with issues. So she's saying, like, let's not call the police, because remember, she is a part of a group of people who believe, oh, well, we support the blue, we back the blue, we're, against crime. But she's asking people to take up their own arms or use their own hands and to kill people because they're having a mental health crisis, or even swindling someone out of $40. The penalty should be death. Like, that doesn't make sense. So in between Nikki Haley sending out thoughts and prayers when we see mass shootings in this country, or even Ted Cruz for that matter, and then they step back and they say, oh, well, we need to do more for mental health. You know, what do they mean when they say we need to do more for mental health? We need to have people kill people who are in the middle of a mental health crisis? I am so confused with what is going on here. And I mean that I'm so confused. It's more rhetorical here, because I know exactly what is going on here. And it's like you said, there is a devaluation of Black lives in this country. And now seeing these videos for certain people who aren't doing their anti-racism work, it becomes snuff. It becomes kind of like almost like a porn for them to watch and to giggle and to laugh. And just like you said, like if this was back during Roman times, a thumbs up of good job. Or if this was back in the 50s and 60s when you had white families on Sunday afternoons across the South show up to the hanging tree to watch someone get hung, it's the same thing, and it's sickening.
Now, folks, on today's show, we were supposed to have Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee and Congressman Jamal Bowman, but there was a vote, and that vote dealt with Democrats pushing for a resolution to expel Congressman George Santos. And so they were outside on Capitol Hill. I'm just seeing this video here. This is a reporter from CNN shot this video. So Santos was out telling the media he was not going to resign. It was Bowman who yelled at him that he should resign. And then Santos then walked away. Then Marjorie Taylor Greene, she then decided to have a few words with Jamal Bowman. Watch this exchange.
What are you talking about? Yeah, migrant children missing. You don't know
No, we don't know the news. I don't know. That's Fox News. That's Fox News. Listen, I need you to save the party.
Pay attention.
Save the party.
What are you talking about? Yeah, migrant children.
I must say, Robert, I love the fact that Jamal Bowman ain't got no problem getting in these fools' faces.
Why did Marjorie Taylor Greene sound like she was trying to talk to the manager? I mean, like she really just walked up with this level of white woman privilege that is just difficult to comprehend. And the idea that you just get to walk up to another member with no decorum, with no class, with no dignity, with no even understanding of the process. You talk to media after he talks to media, you have a debate, and then you vote on things. That's the way we do in civilized society. But in the trailer park that she's from, apparently you think you just get to walk up and start flapping your gums around. So I'm glad that he handled it with that level of class and dignity. I'm glad that he's able to laugh those things off, but in reality, it's not a laughing matter. This is something that Black men deal with in the workplace and everywhere else, and entitled Karen walking up and thinking they get to talk you just because they don't have any respect for you. So shout out to the brother for handling it in such a good way. Don't roll up on me like that. I'm just going to let you know that right now. Do not roll up on me like that and start flapping your gums. You're going to hear something you don't want to hear. And just be glad that you have brothers like that who can handle it in a more dignified fashion. Also, the side note, historical point, when you put the thumbs down in Rome, that meant drop your weapons. Thumbs up actually meant killing blow to the throat. It literally turned around during the 17th century. But
don't forget when this went down, when they were in the halls of Congress after the shooting in Tennessee, when Bowman let them know they wasn't going to do a damn thing.
Force them to respond to the question, why the hell don't you do anything to save America's children? And let them explain that all the way up until Election Day on 2024. Let them explain it all the way up to Election Day on 2024. They're freaking cowards. They're gutless. They're not here. I'm talking about gun violence.
You know, there's never been
I'm talking about gun violence
in a school that allows teachers to carry.
Carry guns? More guns lead to more death. More guns lead to more death. Look at the data. You're not looking at any data. You're carrying the water for the gun lobby. Look at the data. More guns lead to more deaths. States that have open carry laws have more death.
In every school
States that have open carry laws have more death. Are you listening to what I'm saying? Calm down, children are dying. 9-year-old children. The solution is not harming teachers.
Like I said, Bowman like like, yo, you about that life? All right, let's go at it. And so he is not afraid to get these folks' face and let them know exactly how he feels. Let me quickly go to a break. We come back. More Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. We'll tell you what, Kim Gardner, she announced she's resigning as St. Louis Circuit Attorney. She's doing all she can to get a brother out of prison who's been there 33 years for a crime he didn't commit. I'll tell you exactly what that is when we come back.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shooting.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
It's Kim Whitley.
Yo, what's up? This your boy Ice Cube.
Hey, yo, peace world. What's going on? It's the Love King of R&B, Raheem Devon, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, St. Louis Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner, she's asked a court to set aside Christopher Dunn's first-degree murder conviction after witnesses who testified against him later said authorities had pressured them to lie. This man has been there for 33 years. In a statement, Gardner said Mr. Dunn has been incarcerated for a crime in which there is clear and convincing evidence he did not commit. We have an ethical duty to work to correct this injustice. Dunn was 18 years old, folks, when he was convicted for the 1990 shooting death of Rico Rogers. This will not be the first time a judge will hear about Dunn's innocence. At an evidentiary hearing in 2020, Judge William Hickel agreed that a jury would likely find Dunn not guilty based on new evidence, but Hickel declined to exonerate Dunn, citing a 2016 Missouri Supreme Court ruling that only death row inmates could make a freestanding claim of actual innocence. Dunn was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Well, Joe, hell, ain't that a death sentence?
Yeah, functionally speaking. I mean, you know, I'm glad that the DA is doing a couple of things here. She's on her way out, but this is absolutely the right thing to do. He's been in jail for 33 years. And so you can only think of how many people are not getting this moment, are not getting this opportunity. We create this farce of safety through incarcerating people, but you incarcerate the wrong people. You use eyewitness evidence, you pressure witnesses into saying what you need them to say, and then they go away, you know? And so how many brothers, particularly brothers, are in jail because they basically checked a box? They're in the wrong place at the wrong time, and the DA or whoever it was, or the officers, decided that this would be the one to help them check the box, close it up, wrap it up in a bow, and forget about it, lock them up and throw away the key. How much has this actually happened? And it should be, and they're hopeful that they'll get this resolved, but it should be that if you're getting something wrong, it shouldn't just be the person that's on death row that you can reverse. It should be also the person that's doing life that you should be able to reverse. If it's the right thing to do, it's the right thing. But I believe that there is this fear, this underlying fear, that if you really got to the bottom of all of this, there's be a whole lot of people would upset you quite a bit to know how much you actually get it wrong. But the fact of the matter is, it's been staring us in the face, and hopefully this is one more step toward us dealing with it.
It is beyond frustrating, Rebecca, to see these cases. 33 years. 33 years. And to have a judge come to that conclusion and then go, there's nothing I can do. That was 3 years ago.
You know, if the state can lawfully take your life, if the state can lawfully take your possessions, if the state can, if the state can do those things, then the state can also make it right. And so bottom line is, if this state prosecution turns out that it wasn't accurate, then the state should be able to remedy that. And to say that, everyone's hands is tied, that's just simply isn't good enough. And we need to do better. Like, if this is really going to be a criminal justice system, then justice has to be equal on both sides. It has to be evenly weighted. And that's not what, if it wasn't for this prosecutor, then I don't know that this particular person would even have the ability if it wasn't for this particular prosecutor caring enough to do something about this as she leaves office, I don't think the rest of the criminal justice system in Missouri would even care. And that's the travesty that's here.
Well, they won't care because you got Republicans in Missouri, Robert, who don't give a damn. They claim they are pro-life, but they don't care about the life of a black man who has spent 33 years in prison for a crime a judge says he likely did not commit.
See, Roland, you're looking for intellectual consistency, and I don't know why you're still looking for this. Just take the example we used earlier about the MAGA saying they want to defund the DOJ, they want to shut down the FBI because of the mistakes in the Trump investigation. Well, if that's the case, then shouldn't we be doing that for every single one of these situations where a man like this is incarcerated for the majority of his life? Because of a crime that he didn't commit? Shouldn't we be devoting national, federal resources to ensure that we can go through convictions on a nationwide basis, find the incorrect ones, and release those people from prison? That just seems like something we should be doing. We shouldn't have to depend on outside organizations like the Innocence Project and the benevolence of progressively minded prosecutors to have justice in this country. We need to put pressure on our federal government to go through and right the wrongs of the past. There are still people. We have political prisoners in jail from the black radical movements in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. We still have people who are in jail from the war on drugs in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. We still have brothers right now who are being sentenced today for crimes where there's very clear information they did not commit them because of the nature of our criminal justice system, and the overuse of public defenders, the overuse of plea deals in cases. We need to go through and in a systematic fashion fix this system, not piece by piece, not case by case. We have to blow it up and then rebuild it from scratch.
To the folks who are watching, go to the New York Times, go to nytimes.com. Reporter Lisa Belkin has this great piece in the opinion section. Go to my iPad. And folks, the headline is, "It's okay to drop charges if you've got the wrong person." It's called Doing Your Job. And that's what Kim Gardner is doing. Lisa writes in this opening paragraph here of a case, March 1989, a case involving Randall Dale Adams, served 12 years for the murder of a Texas police officer. He'd been granted a new trial. A filmmaker pretty much laid out this guy was completely innocent. And this is what she wrote here, and this is the problem that you see here with these prosecutors. She wrote, "In a damning ruling, the appeals court accepted the findings of a lower court that Dallas County prosecutors had suppressed evidence favorable to Mr. Adams, deceived the court on the whereabouts of a witness, and knowingly used perjured testimony." She said, but prosecutors were still disinclined to let Mr. Adams go. The folks in Missouri, they have been attacking Kim Gardner from the moment that she was elected. Why? Because she actually chose to charge the former Republican governor who was sitting here extorting a woman when it came to who he had an affair with, who took some pictures of her and was holding that against her. From that moment, she's ticked them off, and they've attacked her viciously. Her resignation is a result of how they have been attacking her and tearing down her credibility and going after her at every single juncture. And she has been fighting, using the power of her office to get people released from prison who did not commit crimes. When Craig Watkins was a district attorney in Dallas County, he created a public integrity unit to go back and look at old cases, to go back and retest DNA. There were people who were released from prison because previous prosecutors cut corners, broke the law to put them in jail. And we've seen examples all across the country, many examples across the country, all across the country, where this has happened. Numerous prosecutors doing the very same thing. And people are sitting in jail who should not be there. You cannot get those years back being confined to a cell. And so hopefully we will see some positive movement with this case before Kim Gardner steps down, because there's no guarantee the person replacing her is going to have the same compassion that she has. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr, we look at one of the most influential and prominent Black Americans of the 20th century. His work literally changed the world. Among other things, he played a major role in creating the United Nations. He was the first African American and first person of color to win the Nobel Peace Prize. And yet today, he is hardly a household name. We're talking, of course, about Ralph J. Bunche. A new book refers to him as the absolutely indispensable man.
His lifelong interest and passion in racial justice, specifically in the form of colonialism. And he saw his work as an activist and advocate for the Black community here in the United States as just the other side of the coin of his work trying to roll back European empire in Africa.
Author Cal Rostiala will join us to share his incredible story. That's on the next Black Table, here on the Black Star Network.
Hey everybody, it's your girl Lunel.
So what's up? This is your boy Earthquake.
Hi, I'm Chaley Rose, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Are you aware that Black indigenous communities that actually purchase items with plastic lack access to recycling areas, live in what are called hot zones for waste incineration, and are more exposed to the toxic chemicals that leak from plastics during use into the air, land, and waterways when those plastics are buried or burned? Well, a Black entrepreneur has created Pivet Plastic. What is Pivet Plastic? Well, the co-founder, Michael Pratt, joins us right now to tell us about this. All right, Michael, glad to have you here. So explain to our folks what Pivet Plastic is.
Hey, Roland, thanks for having me back. Pivet Plastic simply is a material that rapidly degrades when it goes into a landfill. Essentially, you mentioned it already earlier, but in general, plastic takes 400 to 500 years to even begin degrading when it's thrown away and when it's sitting in landfill. And so my co-founder, Will, and I worked on a material that we have called Pivet Plastic that allows plastic to self-cycle. And what we mean by that is simply that if you do not recycle a Pivet product made of our plastic, when it enters landfills, it'll rapidly degrade in 3 to 5 years. We've gone and had it third-party tested by a company by the name of Intertech, global testing facility, who've given us the highest level award possible, a Green Leaf Award for our product, because it rapidly degrades in 3 to 5 years. we're meeting consumers where they are. 90% of plastic goes in the landfill anyway. So instead of trying to create a way to change consumer behavior, we've met them where they are so that the product is where you're being green instead of having to make an action to be green.
So obviously, there are so many items that are being made using plastic. Have any major companies responded to what you have created and are using your plastic?
So we are still in our infancy as a company. I'm self-funded and intending to be that way as a Black-owned company as best possible. We currently work with Target, T-Mobile, Best Buy. We're looking at entering Verizon stores this year as well. So companies are responding to us and giving us the opportunity to get our products in front of consumers.
So how long have your plastics, this item been on the market?
We've been in the market for about 3 years. I had the fortune of starting the brand, starting the business, and entering the market right before global pandemic, COVID. So that slowed everything down for us in the fact that everyone was sitting at home and not buying or moving. But we've been rapidly growing since then. NPD, which is the largest, they're kind of like the Nielsen for point of sale and what happens in retail, ranked us as the 20th largest case or protective case brand in the market last year. So we're growing rapidly, and it's just a matter of getting more of your audience and others like us into the stores to pick up our product instead of other brands.
Questions from the panel. I'll start with you, Joe.
Wow, this is a great product. Tell me about what your next frontiers would be in terms of your imagined growth in the next 3 to 5 years. What would you like to grow into if you had your druthers?
So, the best place to go is anywhere that there is a one-time use or single use or short life cycle plastic. Right now, the mobile accessories market is multiple billion-dollar market. I'm trying to grow to become a top-tier brand, top 10 brand first. And then from there, the reason we even started with cases is because when you consider everyone on the planet is carrying a phone, what better cheap way to market than to sell a case to you and have you walk around seeing the Pivet name? Then when you see it on something else, you already know who we are. And you're already, I've already done the branding.
Rebecca.
Sure. Do you have a particular patent on the technology or like utility patent on the technology for this type of plastic?
They are patent pending right now, so we are working towards getting that finalized. And then, there are others working in different industries and such. I have over 15 years in the telecommunications industry, so I'm a subject matter expert on the waste and what type of plastic and what type of consumer behaviors that I wanted to go after with coming up with a sustainable solution. So that's why we entered here first. Best network for me, best relationships and such. So yes, we have a patent pending, and once we get to the level we want to here in consumer electronics, we will start branding moving into other categories and verticals.
Robert.
Green energy and cleaning up the environment are all the rage right now. Have you reached out to any large industries that are in this sector for additional funding, for partnership, for mentorship, for distribution, et cetera? Because it seems like this is something they should be jumping at.
So the answer, that's a pretty complicated answer to provide. So obviously, as we started off, we were looking for support. Again, going through the pandemic, even then when Black Lives Matter kicked off and everyone was saying they were going to support and push Black business more, we've just still found it to be a struggle, to be very honest with you. I've talked to Fortune 500, I've talked to many banks. We've still found it a struggle. We're a revenue generating entity. As I mentioned, our products are nationally available. It's just a struggle. And I'm also happy that I'm privately owned, that it's my business. And while it's taking us a bit longer, our community has generationally been able to create wealth, has generationally been able to create in this society and had it taken or been limited. I'm trying to build a business in an industry that there aren't many Black-owned companies, and then trying to then use that to help inspire others to do so. So while I would love money from others and I would love to be able to grow faster through the support of other money, I'm kind of happy doing it the way I am right now as well, because it's mine, it's ours, and it's something that I can look to use as an example for others.
And so my last question, and so what type of products or what type when you're talking to that this product is best used for? What is it? Cases? Is it water bottles? Like what?
So the material that we have, our self-cycle technology, works on multiple different types of plastic. So any of these plastics that we've tested on and can be manufactured for any type of plastic product use. We focus right now on consumer electronics in the mobile sector. So we manufacture phone cases, we manufacture cases for your AirPods, for your tablets. We make charging products right now, wall chargers, cables. We right now, again, as a consumer electronics focused brand to help get our brand name out and help proliferate our technology, have focused on mobile. So, but to your question, you could use our additive on pretty much any type of plastic.
All right, then. Well, look, where can people get more information?
You can go to mypivet.com. It's mypivet.com to see our product.
Okay. All right, then. Well, look, congratulations. Good luck with Pivet. And hopefully folks will take advantage of the product.
I appreciate you having me on. Thanks so much, Roland.
All right. Thanks a bunch. I'm going to thank Rebecca, Joe, and Robert for being on our panel today. But before we go, let me do this here. So go over here. Here we go to Wide. Carol, come on here. Carol, come on here. Don't be saying what the hell. Come on out here. Carol, come on. Don't be saying what the hell. All right, y'all. So y'all may not realize that when you work on our show, you actually, first of all, everybody can't get one of these, so you got to actually be here at least a year. Carol, where you going? Back over here. Where the camera is, Carol. You should know where the damn camera is. All right, so Carol joined us May of last year. Was it May of last year?
No, 2 years ago.
It was 2 years ago. Okay, it was 2 years ago?
2 years ago on my birthday.
When was that?
May 20th.
May 20th. Okay, all right. I thought it was last year. All right, so anyway, y'all, go where? All right, right there. Okay, cool. All right, just go to the camera right here. Just stay right here. So here we go. So y'all, Carol's jacket is in, and so this is her Rollerbar Unfiltered jacket. You know how we do it. You got your name on it and everything like that. And so boom was right there. So it just came in today. So actually, I think it came in before this here, but Toy is slow as hell. She just mailed it around my house today. And so, Kara, there you go with your unfiltered jacket. And it's DC weather. You might be able to wear that damn thing home because this weather is so stupid. You know, we should be dealing with summer weather right now, but it's still chilly. Don't make no damn sense. We still wearing jackets and sweaters. So there you go, Carol.
Thank you.
All right, back to the control room.
Okay.
All right, she like, what the hell he calling me out here for? All right, so y'all, that's it. We got to get out of here and go. So look, I appreciate all of y'all for checking us out, supporting us in what we do. Of course, we're all about, covering the news that matters, cover the news that matters, and so your support is critical. So first and foremost, do me a favor, download our app, Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. You can also support us in what we do by supporting us by watching Amazon News. We're on the Amazon Fire platform. Watch us on the Amazon News. Also, contribute to the Bring the Funk fan club. Your dollars make it possible for us to cover the news, to pay our staff, to pay all the stuff that costs, the studio space, you name it. None of this stuff is free, y'all. And so send your check and money orders, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And of course, get the book, White Fear, How the Brownie of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Available at bookstores nationwide, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Target. You can also download your copy on Audible. I'll see y'all tomorrow right here on The Blackest Show out here. Holla! Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland. Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and B-Skate.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Pull up a chair. Take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.